Good evening and welcome to the rescheduled regular meeting of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education. This is a rescheduled regular meeting from June 28, 2011, due to notice requirements which were impacted by the power failures. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mary Jane Brady.
Present.
Terry Carney.
Present.
Eric Wagoner. Leanne Charlot.
Present.
Mark Berry.
Present.
Susan Ryder. Al Pfeifhaus. Present.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, second item actually I guess we call it, communications. Do we have any communications or questions from visitors? Oh, we have a communication from someone who's here every month.
Yes, I was going to say, as many of us in Lake Bluff do, we often wear different hats. And although I am the Director of Communications for the school district, I'm also on the 4th of July Parade Committee. And so I came to just tell everybody what an exciting weekend we have coming forward, starting tomorrow night. It's going to be sunny and warm. We have been waiting for this all year to have summer finally arrive. So it'll arrive, Village Block Party. Last year we had 6,000 people come. We're expecting at least that. And we've got 2 bands and a barbershop quartet. It starts at 5 and goes to 11, which is an hour later. And the biggest thing to know is the lines will be shorter. We have learned a lot over the year, and we are going to make the lines much shorter, and everything will go a lot better. So, on Saturday, there's an ice cream social. Bring your chairs, bring your blankets, sit on the village green. Last year, we had, I believe it was 500 scoops of ice cream, and it was gone within like 25 minutes. We have 1,200 this year. So please consider coming. And then the firemen have their 36th annual Fireman's Ball on Sunday night at 7. And then the 4th of July parade begins with the Kiwanis 40th annual pancake breakfast. And then we have the kickoff of the parade at 10 a.m. So, and then followed by a family fair. So there's a lot going on and even more. And so we have a great website, lb4july.org. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. We look forward to seeing everybody out there over the weekend. Any other communications or questions from visitors? Excuse me, just a couple of notes about communications. Before you start, we'd like you to state your name and your address. Sure. We encourage and welcome public comment and questions. If you're going to address the board, like we said, please state your name and address and limit your comments and questions to 5 minutes. A member of the board will serve as a timekeeper. The board will not immediately respond or react to your comments. We appreciate the time that you took to prepare your comments and coming to this meeting, and we commit to listening to them. Please do not make any negative comments about a staff member. If you do have negative comments about a staff member, please contact a member of the board about addressing the board in closed session. Again, thank you for your time and adherence.
Thank you.
Someone serve as a timekeeper?
Yes.
My name is Bob Clifford, 320 Circle Drive. I was here last month to discuss and bring up the issue of Lake Bluff Middle School chiller. As we've all seen, the East School demolition is complete. The grading is near being level. I believe there were some people out there today, including Mr. Berry, sound engineers and acousticians, to take measurements of sound. From my uneducated, unscientific ear, very little, if any, difference in the sound in the neighboring community coming from the chiller with the demolition of East School. So I had hoped, just as much as you guys, that this would have been a quick, easy, inexpensive fix to the problem. It does not appear that it is. Obviously, we'll wait for the official results to come back from the sound reading. But my fear is that we find ourselves halfway through the summer, again, with no plan in place to mitigate the sound. I should say, no plan that's been communicated to those that are being affected, a plan in place to address this. So at the very least, I'd like to hear what else is being planned to try to mitigate that sound. If anything, give us something that we can start working towards and start looking for as a possible resolution to this. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to get up here a month later and express my thoughts again about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications or questions? Okay, we'll move on to reports. Our first would be a PTO report, but I'm guessing since we're at the 4th of July, perhaps the PTO is doesn't have anything to report for us this month. Next would be our superintendent report. Dr. Asplund is not able to be here tonight. He did send a note for us to read. President Brady and the Lake Bluff Board of Education, I regret that I am unable to attend the rescheduled meeting on June 30th, as I must be in Peoria on the 30th to register my certificate with the local regional office of education. The necessary rescheduling of the meeting forced me to make a difficult decision not to attend. Please send my best to everyone, John Asplund. So we wish John well. I think he's excited to start his new position in Farmington, and we're happy for him that he's well on his way, it looks like, in that position. So, okay, next, student services and curriculum. We have Dr. Andy Hendrickson here to give us a report.
Thank you. Well, we've got a lot of exciting things happening next year. Just as a recap to our 2020 Vision Initiative, I'm passing out my report to you. But whole faculty study groups in May, both elementary and middle school, reported their learning. And what we found from that is that while it started slow, the teams really got into the self-directed learning initiative, learned a lot, tried a lot of different things. Not as many student projects or outcomes as we had hoped, but it was kind of a short time frame and we had lots to do. Our leadership team met in May, and we decided that instead of sticking just with the self-directed learning initiative, we would open up to the whole faculty study groups the idea that they could pick any of these topics on the back of your worksheet from our 2020 Vision Framework. So, for example, teachers that were interested in a global awareness improvement to their curriculum could do something like that. I know Marcy Chesin actually was working on a summer curriculum project with that in mind. Creativity and innovation, other ones would be critical thinking, problem solving. The faculty in the August in-services will get together and discuss their interests, and from that we'll develop new whole faculty study teams for them to use throughout the school year, and develop probably more student-based projects would be our goal, given that we would have the entire year to do that. So I'm excited about that continuing effort. We had 16 projects taking place. Most of them are finished now, summer curriculum projects. And we had advertised to the staff that we had federal Title II money available to redesign curriculum with the 2020 Vision improvements in mind. So if they could come up with a way to tie their curriculum more globally, increase the rigor, increase the creativity or problem solving, or any one of these tenets of 2020 Vision, we looked at that and then awarded a number of hours to a vast array of teachers that were involved in these projects. And I listed the titles here: Information Literacy, Self-Directed Learning, Worldwise Schools Correspondence, project that one of the Spanish teachers wanted to do pen pals through technology across the continents. Renzulli Learning, Bridges, Number Corner, continuing in that. 21st Century Research, grades 3 through 5, a redesign of the States and the States project. Classroom Mathematics Lab. And you know, some of the things we've done before, revising the tech boot camp for 5th grade and the multi-age classes. Our enrichment team members were highly involved in most of these projects in facilitating and leading of the hours and hours and hours of time that were spent. They would be representative maybe 20-25% of the time in each of these projects, hoping to infuse best practices. So Ann Wirtz and I, who kind of put this out there among the faculty, are just thrilled with the outcomes and looking forward to the enthusiasm that these new projects will bring next fall. Next fall, I've listed some of the initiatives that we have coming up. The K-8 Spanish revision is now poised to unfurl. in early June, just after school was out, we had a nationally known speaker consultant come, a University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee professor, one of the co-founders of FlessFest, the terrific conference each year that our world language teachers go to up in Wisconsin. Dr. Helena Curtin came and worked with our teachers for 3 days. We made it 2 days with Lake Forest and then 1 day just with the Spanish teachers in Lake Bluff. And Dr. Curtin went over best practices 90% of the time using the target language in instruction, even in kindergarten, and talked about how this is successful in so many different places that she's worked. This is best practice, and invigorated our teachers into saying, you know what, I can step it up, and the kids will learn better if I do this. And so that was a major philosophical change for some of us. Some of us only moving from 70 to 90%, some of us more maybe from 40 or 50% to 90%. So I'm excited about that change. We also were lucky to have our new hire, I think of the name now, Kristen Bowman will be taking the place of Christy Leifried for next year as a leave, and Kristen Bowman was in place for the training, so we were thrilled to have her involved. And then the last 2 days the Spanish teachers met to begin working on creating theme-based units in K-8, so that the curriculum no longer will be these are the vocabulary words and concentrating on memorization of vocabulary words and activities that are infused to support those vocabulary words. The redesign of the curriculum will be theme-based. So here's the idea of what we'll be learning, here's the activity, and we'll infuse the vocabulary words into it. So it may not seem like a big change, but it's going to be much more engaging for students. And the other piece of that is we're going to eliminate a lot of the redundancy that we already have. So Dr. Helena Curtin talked about how students are so much more capable than we're giving them credit for. And we're pushing down the curriculum from 6, 7, 8 into 5, and 5 into 4, and all the way down. So as they develop these themes, they're also developing learner outcomes for each grade level. So this summer and early fall, they'll be developing the first trimester changes, and then they'll be doing some pull-out days throughout the first, second, and third trimester to prepare for second trimester themes and third. And this won't all be done this first year because there need to be developed probably between 4 and 6 themes per grade level. And it's a lot of work, and of course we want them to be in their classrooms teaching most of the time. But they're very enthused about this change, as am I. And I think it's going to be exciting for our kids. And Dr. Curtin is convinced that this is going to lead to much more proficient speakers by the time they leave Lake Bluff. Not that we have a problem now. Our kids are high performers, as we saw in our World Language Report, but it's exciting that we think we can do even more with them. Words Their Way is a new spelling program that we're adopting for K-4. Words Their Way is a terrific research-based program that's based on word sorts and looking at families and ways of manipulating words and pieces of words to help transfer that knowledge of spelling into writing. And one of the things that I like about it, it's not a worksheet-based program where, okay, now you do this spelling packet of 5 to 8 pages a week, and you do it as seat time while I, the teacher, work with kids. It's not busy work. It's really task-specific word sorts that kids do. I hope maybe as we roll it out this fall, Francis Zale, who spearheaded this initiative for us, might come here and actually do some word sorts with you. I think you'd find it fun and get a sense for how engaging this new research-based program is. And just as an aside, second grade teachers at Lake Forest also chose this after a thorough search of the best practices. And so Francis and I hope to work together to do some staff development and training across the 2 districts. Another cross-district thing that we're planning, hoping for this coming fall, is a revamping of the standards math program through an online program, mathematics course called Agile Minds. Agile Minds is a course, how can I say this? It offers courses from middle school through high school. AP Statistics is one of the courses that they offer. It is not independent learning. It is not a one-to-one, I go at my own pace. It's activities and assessments. It's visuals for the teacher to lead the classroom, much as the teacher would do with a textbook now. But the joy of this program is that it begins with a relevant problem for kids. The kids dig into an algebraic or some sort of mathematical problem, and as a result of their inquiry and their study of this problem and real-world stuff that kids can relate to, they start to see, oh, well, this might be a way that I could solve it. And then we teach them the algorithm. And so it's not we memorize an algorithm and then we apply it in these certain areas. We dig into a relevant problem like, a lemonade stand or, something that the kids can relate to, but to show the mathematical relationship that we're going to then teach them. And so it's a bit topsy-turvy. And the other piece that I like about it, which is very research-based as well, is that it's very visual. So now with technology, and as you know, it takes advantage of our one-to-one laptops, the kids can see the relationship of an algorithm unfold. They can see something being graphed. They can see, a little video or a visual of what the teacher is doing. And there's all kinds of these visuals then that the students can access at home, so the parents then can get involved as well and see, oh, yeah, I remember now how to do this, and help their children. So I think parents will be enthused as well. To roll this out, we had a half-day in early May with Janice Heigel, our math consultant, Janelle Carney, our math specialist in the middle school, as well as Patrick Hoover and Jimmy Haycraft. All three of them were really excited about this program. As you know, we're in a little bit of a flex position right now, so I can't tell you definitively what grades and where we'll roll this out. But I'm hoping that our new math teachers, along with Janelle, will be available to go to the August week of training in August in Chicago by Agile Minds to learn this, and then we'll develop who we'll roll it out for. We hope and we plan to use this in our standard math classes so that we can increase the number of kids that successfully finish algebra in 8th grade and move into AAA math in 9th grade. And it's that standard group of standard kids that sometimes they don't move into AAA, and we want to increase that percentage for Lake Bluff, as well as Lake Forest. Again, a crossover initiative that we're going to try to do together.
And will this eventually save on textbook costs such that the textbooks will be online ultimately?
Yeah, this replaces the textbook.
It does.
We're negotiating with the company, and I can't say that it's going to be a savings in money at this point. Maybe better negotiators than I will be able to do that. But yes.
Content is what costs money,
Yeah.
right, obviously.
Yeah, and the research behind this. This comes out of Stanford and the Dana Center, which is a really well-known research facility around mathematics instruction.
But
Yeah.
in any case, it takes care of, at least for some kids, the fact that the math book plus the computer on their backs.
There will be no math book, right. And along with that, I'll throw out there, too, that we're hoping to replace one of the social studies texts in 6th grade at least with an online program.
This year?
That's the hope.
Okay.
We're still working on the budget around that.
I just wanted to ask about the extent of the rollout of Agile Minds this upcoming year. It sounds like it's not a full,
It'll
not
be real
full-blown yet.
small, real small, because
So this year will be a kind of a transition year, some of the old programs, some of the new, or?
no, I think, Al, what we'd like to do is pick 6th grade standard students or 7th grade standard students. I know Janelle Carney is lobbying hard to have some of her 8th grade students involved in this, at least one of her classes. So maybe one class in 6th, one in 7th, or this is what I'm unsure of because we don't have all of our teachers in place.
So it might be one or two classes?
Yes.
As opposed to partial for everyone?
Right. And our upper level math classes are doing so well. They're finishing our algebra program in 8th grade. They're moving into AAA or they're moving into geometry. And, it's good to great. There we're already great. There's less need to try new things. It's for our standard kids that I think we're going to try this first. And yet if we find that it's highly engaging and these standard kids can increase the pace of their learning, we might then expand the pilot to other students.
So all parents aren't going to expect a replacement
Right.
for that textbook this year.
Right.
Some
Yes.
will be in the pilot
I'm
program.
glad you clarified.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it.
Another change that we have, that we're looking at is called Renzulli Learning. And I'm not as familiar with Renzulli. I know just the broad strokes of it. Frances Sales, being gifted certified and one of our leaders at the elementary school, has been well aware and trained by Renzulli. And this is something that she and Tom Brown brought to a large group of elementary classroom teachers this summer to do a webinar. They did a 2.5-hour webinar where components of this online program were introduced. The gist of the program is it offers relevant problem-based learning situations for students in a classroom. So a teacher might use it for a whole classroom setting where they say, you know, here's a real-world problem. You know, 5th grade could be something around recycling and use or reuse. Might have a lot of math in it. Might have some science learning, some nonfiction. The students would learn, and then a hypothesis would be proposed, and they would come up as a team with research and what they would like to do around this. Now, it could be something that has a specific answer or not, but these are real-world problems that are put together, packaged by Renzulli Learning, this online software program, and then available to all elementary grades. And all of the teachers that saw it were highly enthused and found different ways that they would like to try this in their classroom. It might be as an extension or enrichment activity for a small group of kids that already know the concept that is being taught, or it might be a whole class activity. We're looking at piloting this in some regard next year, and Francis and Tom are making a proposal for that. I'm very much in favor of it because I feel that it promotes the whole 2020 vision again. Kids will be more self-directed because they'll be working in these small collaborative teams, problem solving with higher level questions. It has so many rich facets to it that I'm excited about it. So we have a grant through, we have a grant already, and I'm blanking on the name. We have about $1,300 set aside. We might look for more grant money for this. The cost, I think, is around $5,000, so it's not really out of our ballpark already. So that's something that's coming.
But Andy, these are programs that are basically cross-curriculum, so if you're a history teacher, you can find opportunities to use this program as well as a math teacher, a science teacher.
I think each of these problems probably has facets of language arts, mathematics, probably some science or social studies in them. I don't know enough about it, Terry, to tell you specifically if they're curriculum-based, where they're specific to these things.
All right, thanks.
And I know that we're, at this point, only looking at it at the elementary level.
Okay.
The Ellowa Buddies program has been a terrific program for us in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff for the last 3 years, where our second graders have hooked up with the 9th grade biology students, and the high school teacher and the elementary second grade teacher have brought their kids together twice a year in the fall and the spring out at Ellowa Farms to do some learning around environmental science. They look at the milkweed bug and the milkweed plant. They study the oak tree, and basically the theme is cycles of change. There hasn't been a lot of learning for the high school students because they're so much higher in their ability, but they've been tremendous mentors, and there's been a terrific social-emotional component because of our high school buddies, but it's also been very difficult for them to miss all of their morning classes, and it's also been difficult for the high school teachers to miss all of their morning classes or their afternoon classes. So they've given us 3 glorious years of this project, and they're basically saying we need to back away now. And so a number of us have gotten together and thought about best place to save this, and we feel that it's 5th grade. And so Jim Sullivan, the Science ID at the high school, has volunteered to help us redesign this program. Mary Strauss, our 5th grade teacher, is going to work on the small team this summer, and then Mary's 5th graders will pilot the trips in the fall and the spring with a second grade class from LBES. The other second grade classes will continue to go out to Ellowa, and they'll just work in small groups with parent leaders and teacher leaders. So we'll still continue the program without the buddies component this coming year, but Mary's kids will be the mentor buddies for one class of second grade, and we'll learn from the pilot, and then we hope to roll it out to all fifth grade classes in 2012-13. So, and that kind of just came up here in May, so we really, if we knew this in December, we would have had time to plan it, but
And how often do the second graders go out to Aloha Farms?
just once in the fall and once in the spring. Yeah, September and usually April or May.
I'm sure they'd love to go a whole lot more.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is there any thought given to maybe eighth graders serving the
You know,
purpose?
we did, and Nate and I talked extensively about that, but we kind of have the same problem that the high school had, in that they have multiple period classes, and they would miss all the classes, and a teacher would miss 3 kids today, and 3 kids tomorrow, and 3 kids, so it's the same scheduling problem, whereas fifth grade, they're that last group that has homeroom, so Tom or Jill can take their students over, and the students won't miss much. No, good question. The last one that we have going, you're very well aware of, is the Bridges pilot, and it's going to continue into next year. We're planning to come back to you in January, February, probably January, with a recommendation. We've begun analyzing the NWA scores that we got here in the spring, looking at students that were in the pilot program and the students that remained in the everyday math program, as well as we created an assessment that was higher level thinking and not multiple choice like the NWEA. And I know already from that assessment that the Bridges group came out really strong in the more critical thinking ability. But we want to put all that together and probably report to you in September, October as your schedule allows, to show you what the first year of the pilot showed us, and then we'll reevaluate in January, probably more extensively with parent surveys and student surveys, and then make a recommendation about rolling it out or discontinuing it or whatever we plan. But we do have Janice Heigl on deck to help us introduce the program to all teachers in very small doses this fall. So Janice will help all the teachers that haven't been involved, probably grades 1 through 5, do a lesson and model and help them do a lesson, so they have a sense for this program, as well as hearing from their colleagues what it's been all about. And then we'll be able to use her in the spring if we decide to go forward with Bridges. So we've got a lot coming up, and I guess that's probably a good segue to my apology, because I would be thrilled to stay and work with these teachers, these teacher leaders, and the administration, because there's so many great things happening here in Lake Bluff. This is a really innovative group that you have. My responsibilities in Lake Forest have dramatically changed. We've lost 2 assistant superintendents that are not being replaced this year as we look at a reorganization with Dr. Griffith leaving in the following year. So I've taken on a huge amount of responsibilities in Lake Forest that is going to challenge and excite me as well. But what I have promised to do and am very excited to do, and I hope you'll be willing to let me come north a little bit too, is to continue our cross-district initiatives. And we have the Aloha Buddies project we're doing together. We'll probably be doing the Agile Minds together. We've done the tech camp together now for a couple years, and we'll continue doing that. Words Their Way will be another area that we can share resources, paying costs for trainers. We shared Elena Curtin this year. Lake Forest paid for 1 day, Lake Bluff paid for 2 days, and I would hope that we could include Lake Forest teachers to a small extent as the Lake Bluff teachers continue on, if there are opportunities for that. As well as Dr. Julie Cooley put together an administrators academy, and I know all of our administrators are going to be joining together in, is it August or September? I can't remember. Maybe it's this fall. Okay. That we're going to come together and learn about the Common Core standards, which Illinois and most of the states in the union have adopted. So we're going to continue being closely tied, I hope, and I plan. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the update, and certainly thank you for all your work with our 2020 vision this year and with our teachers and staff and our kids. We've very much appreciated the opportunity to share our curriculum initiatives together, and we're really looking forward to keeping those threads alive as we, both districts, plan for the coming years. So thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. President's report. I believe last month, right after last month's meeting, when we had congratulated our 8th grade Project Citizen group on being chosen to go to Springfield, you may have seen this in the news, but they were then chosen to go to the national competition. So we just keep congratulating Marcia Krall's 8th graders on their terrific work. So, second of all, probably most people have seen this in the news and on our website, but the board is very pleased to announce that Dr. Ben Martindale has accepted the position as our interim superintendent for this coming year. He's preeminent in the field of education. He's very well known in Lake County and across Illinois, and actually across the nation for his work in education. He spent many years as superintendent in Gurnee, and he has recently been appointed by both the Illinois State Board of Education and the Illinois State Finance Authority to help in some districts that needed a little extra help in their administration. So Dr. Martindale lives in Wadsworth and has 3 grown children, and we're looking forward to him joining us on July 1st. So the last thing I'd like to say is, on behalf of the board, I would like to thank our community for your phone calls, emails, and your personal conversations showing your interest in our schools. Your comments, ideas, and suggestions are valued as we consider the many, many facts and make the decisions as your Board of Education. But thank you again. Please keep contacting us any way that you feel comfortable. A phone call is fine, email is fine. Maybe we'll see you this weekend out walking around at the block party. But this community is very involved in our schools, and that's one of the things that makes us so good. So thanks again. All right, we will move on to action items. The first action item is personnel recommendations. Could I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel recommendations as per the attachment.
Second.
Anybody have any questions or discussion? Susan?
Sorry to see Mr. Hoover and Mr. Haycraft go. I'm wondering if we have any thoughts regarding what next, but perhaps that conversation can wait until after we vote this.
Well, I can speak to that if you'd like me to. Both those positions have been posted. We've known about Mr. Hoover's departure for some time. He has moved on to accept a curriculum coordinating position at a new school in Chicago, so it's certainly a nice opportunity for him. While the resignation of Mr. Haycraft came later on, we still had a large pool of applicants, nearly 300 applicants for those open math positions. So I've spent a good deal of time screening those, and over the last 2 days conducted 9 interviews with our math candidates and have some very good options for us. So hope to make some recommendations at our next board meeting. Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Al, could we have a roll call?
Terry Carney?
Yes.
Leanne Charlot? Yes. Al Pfeifhaus? Yes. Susan Ryder?
Yes.
Mark Berry?
Yes.
And Mary Jane Brady?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Item B, approve the waste management bid. Could I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approves the bid of $523 per month from Waste Management for the waste disposal and recycling for the 2011-2012 fiscal year.
Second?
Just as a point of discussion on this, we had bids from several different organizations this is for our recycling and waste removal, and this bid is about half of what we had spent last year per month for this particular service, so. All right.
Do we attribute the savings? Just better negotiation or some difference in process, or maybe we're going down to once a week, or does anyone know?
It's a different provider.
Yeah, it is a different.
It's
yeah.
Waste Management didn't have it
Right.
last year. Okay,
Yeah.
I apologize.
I think anytime we get into these 3-district negotiations, the bids by district are wildly different for whatever reason. And this one obviously suits us well from a waste management versus our prior provider. And I assume that it's also the way it sorts out for Lake Forest in total works out well for them as well. But it's interesting that it's gone down, but it may be a more competitive world now. And
And so I understand, it is just recycling, or is it recycling and non-recyclable waste? Did-
waste removal.
It sounds to me from the proposal it's
everything.
all waste, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
that's right.
seems good worse.
Yeah,
Recycling and waste removal, so.
Yeah.
Perhaps we've been very successful and have less waste.
well, we also do a better
Maybe.
job of sorting things and everything else. I think
Right.
it makes it a lot easier for those vendors, based on the green initiatives that we have in the schools, so.
That's good to know, thanks.
Other questions? Al, could we have roll call?
Susan Ryder?
Yes?
Mark Berry?
Yes.
Leanne Charlo?
Yes.
Al Pfeifhaus? Yes. Terry Carney?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes. Okay. Approval of the Prevailing Wage Act resolution. Could I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approves the amended board meetings, wrong one, right? Sorry. Is that the right one?
No, C.
Let's see.
I move that the Board of Education approves the Prevailing Wage Act resolution as presented.
Second.
Okay, and in terms of this particular item, law requires the board to approve the Prevailing Wage Act resolution each year. The district is required to file the approved resolution with the Illinois Department of Labor and the Secretary of State's office. We're also required to publish notice in a newspaper, which we have done. Just as a matter of information, school districts are required to pay these for construction projects. So the work at the middle school would be one of those projects in terms of our asphalt work for the parking lot. So, any questions? Al, can we have a roll call?
I don't think this requires a roll call, but
We could vote either way, so.
Terry Carney?
Yes.
Al Pfeifhaus? Yes. Leanne Charlo?
Yes.
Mark Berry?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes. Okay, approval of the amended board meeting schedule for 2011-12. Could I have a,
I move that the Board of Education approves the amended board meeting schedule for 2011 and 12 as presented.
discussion? This amended board schedule includes in it now each month, most of the months, not every month throughout the year, but a second meeting, a committee of the whole meeting, which will be 2 weeks before the board meeting. So the second Tuesday of each month would be the committee of the whole. This kind of a structure, which we're trying out this coming year, will give the board a chance to have more time, perhaps, to discuss items before they come to the board the last Tuesday of the month, or the fourth Tuesday of the month, for our action on those items. So it's a way for us to get committee information and things before the whole board, and give us a chance to ask some questions, perhaps get more information, that kind of thing, so.
Like this meeting will be public,
That's
but
correct.
unlike this meeting, we will not make decisions.
Correct. And those meetings are going to occur in this room.
And for me, as a new board member, I think it's going to be very helpful to get a little bit of with everything that's going on, rather than hearing about finance secondhand or hearing about facilities secondhand. Instead, we'll have this forum to which everyone is invited to attend, where we can hear about all things that are going on. So the structure seems to make sense for me, and I'm very hopeful after a while that it will make the best sense for all of us. But it will be here in this room,
We'll be in this room.
and so we'll, I see that the listing, and those will be posted just like all open meetings. Okay.
Like all of our meetings. They will not.
But for community members who want to drill down and learn more about what we do and the conversations we have, it's a great opportunity to come and listen and hear and
Correct.
be part of the conversation.
Correct. So that, and those meetings will all be here just like these, so people are kind of used to us meeting here, so those meetings will be here also.
I'm wondering if it might be a good forum for us to take additional questions as they come in, because as we're trying out the questions and answers this month, if we can discuss at the committee of the whole, rather than in these meetings, sort of what questions have come in and whether, and what answers we might need to come up with.
We can check on that. Perhaps we can include like a new business section or something on there where maybe people could ask questions at that point.
Or they might have come via email, and we'll need an open meeting to discuss what we feel comfortable with the response being. So it might be a good forum for that, where we can just have those discussions.
Any other questions or discussion? All right. I believe on this one,
Just consensus.
all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. That is approved. Item E, possible action as a result of closed session is not necessary because we did not have a closed session. So we'll move on to F, the consent agenda. There is one item on the consent agenda, 7, approval of hazardous routes. I have some information about that.
It's in Jane's note.
These are bus routes that have been designated as hazardous by the state, and should we ever eliminate paid busing, we will need these routes in order to file a transportation claim, which we do not currently do. We approve these each year in an effort to avoid having to repeat all the work if we were to start from scratch somewhere down the line. So we just each year do designate these routes and as hazardous and take care of this. So this is just something that we do yearly. So.
They really haven't changed since 1988?
Correct. Correct. So could I have a motion?
I move that we approve the following items on the consent agenda as presented in our agendas and on the television screen.
Second.
Any questions or further discussion on that?
I'm not familiar with this. What's a hazardous route? I just wasn't familiar with this before seeing it in the packet.
As I recall, having gone through this now 6 times, or 7 perhaps, and we've quizzed, when Jane's been available to us, we've quizzed her in the past. Any route that requires a student to cross a state highway or a road of a certain traffic volume qualifies as a hazardous route. There are certain other prescriptions.
Railroad tracks? I see.
Yeah, railroad tracks, things like that, that can affect the reimbursement from the state if we were to provide free busing. So some of our routes do, some don't. This just maintains our status quo, basically. So if we need it, we've got it.
It was also, if, as a parent, you're paying for busing, and your child didn't walk to school because of that, one of these hazardous routes, you could apply for reimbursement from the state, and they would submit the reimbursement indicating the hazardous route that you crossed. But that all depends if the state was paying,
Right.
Right.
which they haven't been.
As a policy or just because they're about to default? Is it?
Because they don't,
Oh,
we applied for 2 years and haven't gotten paid.
okay, I see.
Any other questions or discussion? All right. Al, could we have a roll call?
Terry Carney?
Yes.
Al Pfeifhaus? Yes. Leanne Charlot?
Yes.
Mark Berry?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes.
And Mary Jane Brady.
Yes. Okay, new business. Anybody have any items of new business? None? Any old business?
Perhaps just to acknowledge, as Bob Clifford referenced, that the sound measurements were taken today. Steve Miller was there controlling the chiller, and Nate was there, and a couple board members, Mark and myself, and so we should get those results. Did you get a chance to ask?
We
when-
did ask, but we can't commit to when we'll have them.
Okay,
available,
so we're uncertain as of tonight when those results will be in, but we don't expect them to take too terribly long.
Great. Anything else?
It's exciting to go by there and imagine a park, right? Where East School used to be. It's kind of exciting.
The property looks a lot bigger than it did with the building there, doesn't it?
does, yeah.
All right. Might I have a motion to adjourn?
I
Move that at 7:29, the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
All in favor? Adjourned.